So the other day we were just talking about Pam Bondi, and went to the uh, she had a hearing where they were talking about the Epstein files and whatnot. And if you guys know, these hearings happen often a lot. We've had Mark Zuckerberg, who went in there and talked about Facebook and revealed to us how much of our information he has. Understand, when you put something on the internet, it's on there forever. If you have Facebook, Instagram, any of these things, they follow you, they watch you, they read, they take all your data and they sell it to whoever wants it. So be careful what you're putting online and whatnot. But anyway, they had a hearing for a guy named Jeremy Carl. He's trying to be stamped to be the Secretary of State of the United States of Foreign Affairs. Now, the problem with Jeremy Carl, guy, he's a white supremacist, neo-Nazi, fascist dickhead. Okay, he's an idiot. He's really a racist. He's a Nazi. He's a real life. If you were to read some of the tweets he's made, he is him. He is exactly what we talk about. So Jeremy Carl, let's talk about a bit of his background. He has a bachelor's from Harvard, a BA. Business administration. This is the reason why I tell a lot of y'all brothers always talking about education doesn't matter. I used to be one of those guys. Trust me, it matters. When you step out of your little circle amongst you and your little friends you have, and you step into the real world, the people who are really making these decisions on a global scale, they are very well educated and they have the best education and connected to other people who are well educated. Is it the only thing, end all be all? No. But you're going to sit here and tell me you would rather not have a master's degree in something that it can help you understand. College gives you critical thinking. 2, he was the head of Yale Political Union, neo-Nazi. So that lets you know a lot about Yale. And he was an MPA of Kennedy School of Government. Oh, yeah. By the way, he worked for the Senior Fellowship Claremont Institute. That is a white supremacist think tank. If you know what a think tank is, it's pretty much where a bunch of white supremacists get together and come up with ideas. They write them all down. They challenge each other's ideas. Well, that's not racist enough. How about we murder all the indigenous? You know what I mean? That's literally what these people do inside there. Now, he wants to be Assistant Secretary of State. And listen to you're a white supremacist, right? You believe that the white race is more superior to all races on earth, which is the dumbest thing. If that was the case, why do you need to rob, steal, and kill? You should be able to compete fairly on a fair level. We all start from the same spot. Let's go. No, you need white privilege, and you need to not steal, but you see how they're taking down all these slavery statues and taking certain holidays away, taking certain monumental statues and whatnot, and plaques. And they just in Philadelphia, they just had like a whole a protest they were trying to take down this area where they would literally sell slaves, literally like this quarters, and they zoned it off and they made a historical place where they said this is where slaves are sold. They had plaques on there on the wall. Donald Trump and his administration, Parks and Recreation. We got to find out who's that, the Parks and Recreation guy. They literally are taking it down, saying we're taking that all down. It's not fair to the white population. But anyway, this is what the Assistant of Secretary of State does. So this is what this guy, James Carl, does, right? And then we're going to play a clip. He's supposed to lead specific regional or functional bureau managing foreign affairs policy, diplomatic missions, and operations. He manages the budget, oversees personnel, management policy, developing foreign policy. He also has to keep relationships with other countries, and he's a diplomat to Congress. Now we're going to play a little clip and see how diplomatic he is to Congress.
One of the things you have said is that anti-white discrimination is the most pervasive and politically salient form of racism today. So do you continue to believe that anti-white discrimination is more salient than the discrimination faced today by blacks, Latinos, Muslims, or other American groups?
Well, Senator, thank you for that question. And thank you also for giving me an opportunity to speak at a little bit of length. I haven't necessarily had much opportunity to respond.
I'm going to have at least one more question for you, so I'll give you a minute or two to respond.
Yes. So thanks to the great work of my friend Harmeet Dillon as the Assistant Attorney General of Civil Rights, I actually think that we've done an incredible job in this administration of getting rid of certain policies that discriminate particularly against white Americans, but also in some cases Asian Americans.
Well, just maybe answer my question. Let's rewind. Because maybe you'll suggest that everything is fine now. Let's rewind a year ago. A year ago, were white Americans the most discriminated against group in the United States? You said it. So
Senator, no, certainly this is my belief. I'm not running away from that. I think that while, of course, all races in different contexts can be subject to really severe discrimination, that when we look at our legal structures, white Americans are often very disfavored in overt ways. We're seeing this in the Small Business Administration, many other places.
So your belief is that white Americans face more discrimination, at least prior to the Trump administration fixing this, than black Americans?
On average, Senator, yes, that's correct, and I'm not running away from that statement at all.
You have made several statements about your worry regarding the erasure of white culture in America. I understand Irish American culture. I understand Italian American culture. I maybe don't understand white culture as well. Tell me the values, the white values that you believed are being erased by the current American government or prior American governments.
Senator, thank you for that question. I would say that it's not, I didn't use the word values, I used the word culture. I think that anytime you have large degrees of mass immigration, you're going to have a change in culture, especially if they're coming from culturally dissimilar backgrounds. And no matter what group it is, if it were in China, it would be the same thing. If it were in New Guinea, it would be the same thing.
Yeah, but tell me about what that means. I mean, culture is values, right? It's expressions of identity. Tell me what is being erased. I mean, give me some examples of what you believe are being erased about white identity. What is white identity to you?
Well, Senator, thank you for that.
Tell me how it's different than other identities.
Senator, I think the question of identity is something that lots of scholars
I get you can do a sermon on identity, but just tell me how you define white identity and what you think is being erased about white identity.
Senator, it would thank you again for the question, and genuinely thank you for finally letting me have a chance to explain some of my comments a little bit. But I would say that, they could be things like going to a certain type of Christian church and that sort of culture, which is very different. I mean, you can all be Christians, right, in a certain environment, but African-American Christians might worship differently than Chinese Christians that might worship differently than white Christians. Of course, sometimes you have multi-ethnic churches, but things like that, certain types of Anglo-derived culture that comes from our history.
Like what?
Let me think about this. Senator, I would say if you were to look at the book by one of your former Senate colleagues, Born Fighting, about the sort of Scotch-Irish military culture and certain, pride that went with that, that would be one example. Obviously, you could have sub-elements of that culture. You could have Italians, you could have Irish, and those are in many ways more distinct.
You're worried about white culture. You're not worried about, you're now retreating to ethnic identity. You don't speak about ethnic identity. You speak about white identity. So tell me the values that stitch together white identity and that make it different than black identity.
Senator, again, thank you for the question.
You spent a lot of time talking about this and writing about this.
Yeah,
no. You're struggling with this. But you should be fairly easily, I would assume, able to tell us your thoughts on how white identity is different than other kinds of identity and how it's being erased.
Senator, again, thank you for the question. I'm
You're welcome.
Trying to be I'm just trying to be very precise. Because I'm here in front of a Senate committee, I would say that the white church is very different than the black church in terms of its tone and style on average. Foodways could often be different.
And those
Music-
are being erased.
music could be different.
And those are being erased.
Music could be different. Well, if you look at the Super Bowl halftime show, which was not in English this year.
So our ability to access white churches or white food or white music is being erased?
Senator, again, thank you for the question. What I would say is the biggest thing, because actually, contrary to many of the comments that have been shown, racial nationalists have been very, very critical of my work because they correctly say that I'm actually, of course, not a racial nationalist, which I'm not. I'm a civic nationalist. I am concerned with the majority common American culture that we had for some time that through particularly mass immigration, I think has become much more balkanized, and I think that weakens us. And again, I'm not running away from that comment. I'm not apologizing for
Well,
it.
I'm way over my time. I think you're struggling to answer this question, right? Because underlying your beliefs is a sentiment that white culture is just simply better. That
No,
white people
Senator,
are
I have to
superior.
disagree with that.
But you haven't been able to really coherently answer any of my questions about how you define white culture, how you define the threat that's posed. I appreciate you being very honest that you believe that white Americans are subject to greater amounts of discrimination in this country than black Americans. I do not think that's a sentiment that is shared broadly on this committee. It is all what makes you just wildly, wildly unqualified to take this post. I'm well over my time. Thank you.
Irish military culture and
But you're worried about white culture. You're not worried about, you're now retreating to ethnic identity. You don't speak about ethnic identity. You speak about white identity. So
contrary to many of
So you see that. So when he's talking with the first senator, I think it's Thomas. No, that's not Massey. I'm forgetting who that is. But he is speaking with him, and he's trying to get down to the point. There's many points he's trying to get to, but exactly what is white culture? He says Italian and Irish. For one, Italians and the Irish got to this country, they were not considered white. They were treated bad, not like black people bad, but they were considered like they couldn't work certain places, eat certain places, live certain places. They weren't considered white. If you understand the Irish history, it was pretty rough. I hate when the Irish people say, we were slaves too. Stop it. I heard a black man say that because he's dating white women. And you know how brothers who date white women always try to make excuses for white atrocities. And but anyway, with this, so he's getting to the point. He's like, so what is white culture? And so he's struggling to answer that question because, for one, for him to answer it, he's just going to have to show how blatantly racist and blatantly of a neo-Nazi white supremacist idiot he is. And he can't do that because, one, he watched Pam Bondi's hearing, so he knew not to be combative. It just looks bad visually on the TV. And so he asked him, what did he say? He said, please explain to me what is white culture and how are we not able to access it? And so he's saying, well, you know, with the Super Bowl and, you know, we celebrate church different. And he asked him, he said, so how are we not able to access? This guy here, James Carl, the freaking doofus, he looks like he gets no girls. A lot of these dudes, I'm telling you, were bullied in high school, weren't really attractive looking. And what now? Everybody was bullied in high school. I was bullied a little bit. You were probably, everyone goes through it, but you don't turn into this guy. And so when he's trying to explain how they're not able, you're trying to tell me white people are not able to access all white spaces? Are you serious? What do you call a bank? What do you call executive positions in companies? What do you call, then he goes in further and he said, what have all the presidents been? They've all been white. What if all the CEOs of Fortune 500 companies, 99% white, billionaires, white, people in power, just in general. And then what makes it so creepy is you're going to be the face that has to sit down with Xi Jinping in China, the president. You're going to have to sit with their people. They're not going to take that shit. You're going to have to go to Africa and work diplomatic missions with Africa. They're not going to take... You're going to go to Central America with your we're better than you bullshit. You're going to go to India, Korea. Most of the world is not white. And you're going to be the... So that lets you know who Donald Trump is hiring, what he wants. And this is just one guy that's just running around hundreds of people in Donald Trump's administration. Stephen Miller will make this guy look like a Sunday school teacher. This guy, he's not. Stephen Miller's the real deal. That dude is a neo-Nazi fascist, this bootlicker. But anyway, just watch the second part with Cory Booker.
Societal.
What do you mean when you say that you believe in the Great Replacement theory?
Senator, thank you for that question. This refers to the intentional demographic replacement of Europeans in Europe. It was invented by Renaud Camus, who was a French scholar.
You think there's an active effort to, quote unquote, replace Americans right now?
Senator, I think the Democratic Party, through its immigration policies, has certainly shown signs of that.
And I don't understand that. So you are saying that if more Americans are Black or Latino Americans, that somehow weakens America because it puts whites in a minority.
Senator, I never said anything like that, nor do I actually believe that. I want to be very clear that regardless of country, if people generally share more in common, that's a strength.
Can I read you what you've said? Because it sounds like this. You said the Great Replacement is real, and they are going to try to make you pay for it. Who is they?
Senator, thank you for that question. I simply don't know from you reading that one isolated comment.
So this is the problem. You make the most incendiary comments that you admit that you regret about Jews, about Latinos, about Blacks. And you sit here and say that you do not have a worldview, that somehow our country is weakened based upon the populations of each. In fact, you say in your writings that it is a threat to the United States of America and create an us versus them. And the only interpretation I can have of us versus them is it's white people against others, which sounds deeply racist to me. That somehow you think our country's greatness depends upon its ethnic diversity as long as white people have more numbers than others. That does not sound like a nation that was founded with the belief that all people are created equal and equal before the eyes of God. It sounds like you have a racial hierarchy. There's no way for me to read this in any other way.
Senator,
because you have said our country, based upon religious diversity, based upon ethnic diversity, based upon racial diversity, you have indicated that somehow those make America weaker or stronger. That God forbid our nation grows in population, that then you suddenly say, I'm aggrieved, and they are trying to replace us. This is the United States of America. We are one nation under God, but you cut us up and divide us along racial lines.
Senator, respectfully, I do not think that they do.
You cannot use the word respectfully, because you do not respect me.
Oh,
you
no,
look
actually,
upon
I do.
me as my color of my skin. You say holidays like Juneteenth are racial hustles. Don't come here and hustle me.
Senator,
you have said statements that other nations are going to look upon you and read plainly. When you go to a country of a different religion or ethnicity, you have discriminated against Jews in your writing, you have discriminated against others, and then you claim yourself as a victim. Mr. Chairman, I've never seen such a blatantly racist individual who doesn't even deny that he's made these statements, but wants to tell us that he regrets them, and yet still believes that this body, who is committed to principles of equality, who is committed to ideals of our founders, that you're not in direct violation to the ideals and values and principles. And the last thing I want to say, I watched people beat others when they attacked the Capitol, viciously attack police officers. Brian Sicknick, a New Jersey resident, was beaten near death and would die days later. And you say those violent felons, you literally have said that they were treated worse than people during Jim Crow. when thousands of Americans were lynched, murdered, beaten, and killed, you equate Capitol Hill rioters with receiving worse treatment than Americans during Jim Crow, which even some of the worst people who participated in that violence and beatings have come forward decades later and said, I was wrong. It is shameful that when this body ran for its life, when they had gallows for the vice president put outside, when they tried to stop the peaceful transfer of power, that you would equate those people to the folks that were victimized and terrorized by white nationalist organizations like the KKK. Sir, you have no decency. You have no honor. You say inflammatory things because it thinks it will ingratiate you to those who are paying your salary. And you sit here before me and try to wrap yourself in the American flag? Well, I believe in this nation. I believe in the principles. I believe in those who fought and died for our country. You disgrace that legacy and the ideals that we all swear an oath to uphold, that does not believe in one nation for one people and another people. Dear God, I pray for us if we let somebody like you represent us to the diverse nations of the world as representing the values of our country.
Senator,
Mr.
I
Chairman,
absolutely
yield.
deplore Jim Crow, but I do not agree with the characterization that you have done of my views.
Cory Booker went off on him, and I agree with a lot what Cory Booker says. And he's saying what I just said earlier. You're going to be a representation of America in front of so many different countries. And you're going to go there with your nose held up on them, like Donald Trump does. And you're going to, whether it's a different religion, race, ethnicity, and you're going to go there with this ideology that you've picked up from the depths of hell. I don't know, from. But this is the thing I'm going to say to Cory Booker. Cory Booker, I understand your outrage, and there's a part where he said, "Would our founding fathers do?" Cory Booker, the founding fathers were racist slave owners. They owned slaves, Cory Booker. When they wrote the Declaration of Independence, they did not think of black people. They were 3/5 of a human. The founding fathers were hypocrites, liars, child pedophiles, and rapists. They would sleep with underage slaves. Thomas Jefferson was a sociopathic murderer, genocidal maniac. And so pretty much with the Cory Booker, I agree with what he says, but Cory, come on, man. Like you sound like you're grandstanding a bit, as in you don't understand who this guy is and how there's many of them that existed throughout the history of America. Like, this guy is probably a nobody, but at the same time, give him hell. I don't want him in there, so I don't understand what anybody else's objections could be to that. But yeah, so this is Donald Trump's administration. So we saw Pam Bondi. She couldn't answer a single question. And then we have this guy who's trying to retreat from everything he said. And so apparently on his Twitter, on his Facebook, and whatever things, he's erasing posts that he's made. Because he understands how he looks. He looks horrible. You look horrible. Who in the world, you're going to sit next to, what country is going to deal with you? And that's the problem what America's having right now with the tariffs, like we were talking about earlier, and this white supremacy stuff. Countries now are looking to other places to do business with. They put a tariff, I believe, on Canada when it comes to wood and whatnot, or like tree wood. I don't know. Don't take my word for exactly the good that they're bringing here, but they put a giant tariff on it. So Canada started sending it to different countries. And once these tariffs end, and these people who needed these customers who need the wood to do different things with it, we're going to find that these companies have new customers and built new relationships, and they don't necessarily need you like they did before. So prices may change and things of that nature. This is the problem with this, right? But hey, white people want to destroy America, have at it. You guys do what you do. I got my visa and I got my dual citizenship. You know what I'm saying? If y'all want to get y'all's to the black brothers and sisters, figure out your genealogy. FBA, y'all can stay. FBA, Tariq Nasheed, and your whole bum ass crowd, you guys can stay here. But yeah. Jeremy Carl is, and who was the secretary? Said Marco Rubio. You'd be working under Marco Rubio, the guy who's never seen a war he didn't like. Donald Trump has become he always talks about, I don't want war, I don't want war. Now he's just become a war hawk. It's so good. Like, he's bombed Nigeria, bombed Somalia, bombed all over Middle East, bombed Venezuela. And he was the guy talking about no wars. We want to keep this country out of wars. But anyway, guys, you know what we got to do here. We're going to keep covering these things. I try to keep them short and simple now that I've watched them. Like, I don't think people have time to sit there and watch a 30-minute clip. But what we're going to do is we're just going to keep going with this, you know what I mean? And just see where it takes us. But anyway, you guys know the slogan: chase knowledge, don't chase money. Peace, love, and positivity. Till next time, enjoy your weekend. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Like, comment, share, and subscribe. I gotta keep saying that. Let me write this down. But anyway, I guess I gotta tell you guys that. People been telling me, why don't you tell people? I'm like, they already know. They're like, yeah, but it's good to make a reminder. It's all free. I don't have any membership subscriptions. Hopefully at some point we can get to that point. And yeah, you guys have a good one. Enjoy your Friday.